like a cat, and this is my 4th Flosstube video. Thank you for joining me. I have a lot to get through today because I had a birthday and birthday presents, birthday shopping, birthday adventures. So I'm just gonna hop right into it. And we'll talk about life stuff along the way because it'll be interwoven with all my birthday stuff. So, first I'm going to do, I have updates on the Celestial Witch. This one is by Stitch Sprout. It was a Patreon exclusive in February, I believe, but it is now available on her Etsy store. And so I can link that below if you are looking for this and you're not a patron of Stitch Sprout. This is being stitched on a 28 count Monaco that I dyed with Rit dye. I'm stitching it with the called for DMC 2 strands, except one of the yellows I did not have, and so I substituted it with Gold Leaf by Gentle Arts. I was questioning my decision to use that, but honestly, I think it's looking all right, but let me know if you think it's too bright, because the called for is much more of a pastel yellow. I just didn't have it. It was a DMC. I just didn't have it, and I did have this, so I decided to give it a try. But it's in the bow here and these little pieces. And the star, there's a star there that I might backstitch because I didn't realize it was a star until I stitched it. Like from the model I couldn't tell, and I think it's supposed to be like, she has like a necklace, and so I think I'm gonna backstitch the star to make it pop a little more. So if I decide to stick with this one, I'll just continue. I need to fill in these gaps with the yellow to make these little like twinkle lights. And then there on the brim of her hat is backstitched constellations. The whole thing has constellations. So don't let me forget to do that because I feel like there's a possibility I will finish the full cross and then say I'm done and forget. So because I'm gonna have to, I might have to work from the PDF, like looking at it on my laptop, because when I printed out the pattern, the backstitch was not really visible. You can't really see it. My next whip is my Focus to Finish for 2025. It's a project that I started in, it was a New Year's start in 2022, and it is my oldest whip. And I don't think I've mentioned yet, so I'm going to show you the pattern. And when I picked it up this year, pretty much all I had done was I had this flower and this top border, and then some of the finer details on this bird. That was it. That's all I had. So I wasn't even a third of the way through the design. So I'll show you my progress now. So now I have finished there's 3 pages. I finished the first page. It's here. I am pretty much done with the second page, except there's a pumpkin right here, and then I have to finish this fence at the bottom. So I'm mostly focused on the 3rd page. Once I get that sun filled in, which I do when I'm not feeling like doing anything else really, I pretty much just have the fill in on the bird, the second bird. I want to bring you in close. So this month, most of what I did was I finished all of that detail in the bird on this one, and then I did that little acorn, and I started bringing the fence this way. I have all the called for. I am mostly using the called for. There's a couple exceptions. So for the birds, I wanted them to be really stand out, and so the bird and the candelabra, I'm using sulky black instead of, it was probably called for mascara. I always use 310. And then I have used 310 in the fence details and anywhere else that there's black, because I just wanted it to lay flat with everything else. But the birds, you know, they're a little more dimensional. And I think that it worked out really well. This is a 36 count Zweigart linen. I think it's cream. But it's just a base linen. It's not over dyed. So I do find that 310 on a 36 count base linen is too sparse for me usually, but it depends on, like, if I'm looking for something saturated in black, it's not gonna, 310 is not gonna work. But for like this fence detail, it's totally fine because it's an airy kind of a motif. The other modifications I've made is that, so in this big flower, that was called for a cinnamon toast from Classic Colorworks, and the skein I had, it just freaked me out because it was the exact color of raw chicken breast. And I stitched it, that flower, and I couldn't deal with it. So I pulled it out and I filled it in with just, I think this was another color that was called for, and there was one other flower that I also just used a random color that was also just already on my floss ring, because it is in the color palette. And then I might make one other adjustment. So these leaves, they show up better on camera than in person. They're really tone on tone in person, but in the model they really stand out. The like brownish ones, and so I think I might pick them out and use, honestly, there's other colors in the color palette, like on the floss ring, that would work and look like more like the model picture. So I do think that I will do that, but I don't know, I'll probably do it like at the end. And that one is in my 805 Stitcher bag. This was a exclusive bag that she collaborated with Lindy Stitches when Stephanie came out with those, like, Lord of Gourds. It was like a trio of like little pillows, and it was like little puns, autumnal featured birds, and I bought that. I bought the whole kit with the bag. And then I haven't started the pattern, but honestly that might be a good one to start this fall because they're so cute. And one of them, I think it's a magpie, but I wanted to change it a little bit to make it patterning match an African pied crow, because so I live in East Tennessee, Dollywood's here. At Dollywood they have they partner with the with essentially a bird rescue, the American Eagle Foundation, and then they have other birds that can't be released, that they have rehabilitated as best they can. And one of the birds is named Tuck, and for years his job was, at the end of the bird show, you could give him like $1 and he would put it in the donation box, so you could just hand it to him and he'd put it in the box. And I'm a big Tuck fan, so I want to make it match him. Okay, this is my last whip, and it was my focus for the month. So I didn't have that many whips this month, and I didn't have any starts this month because I would really like to get this project finished. Hopefully this month, but definitely this year. I started this as a birthday start in 2023. It is The Mermaid of Salem Bay by the Primitive Hare. I'm stitching this on the called for, it's a printed linen that you can get from the Primitive Hare. This month, I did all of the fill-in in the part of the fin part of the tail, and I finished the outline and have done all the fill-in you see in the hair, and I have done her face and all her skin. So what I have left is I need to finish those 2 gaps in the hair, and then backstitch. She has some backstitching on her face, and then there's backstitching in the tail, and there's beads in the tail. I do have the called for bead pack, so I'll be using those. And some of the backstitch on the tail, like here, I plan to do in this DMC metallic. I think that's gonna be really pretty and match my colors. And for this project, I am not using the called for floss for the most part. I bought all the called for. I used to always do that, and then, you know, as you've seen, I tend to change things even after I bought the called for. So now I try to kit things up. I try to change things before I buy them. But this was a few years ago, and so just for example, I bought the called for, and like the colors that are in so these were the colors in the tail. This green color is supposed to be that color. I don't even see a resemblance. And then this color was, this color right here was supposed to be the fill-in for her hair. Again, that just, it wasn't giving the look that I was, they're just too bright, too pastel. I don't know. This pattern, I bought these flosses, this pattern came out in 2020. I bought the flosses in like 2021. So I don't think it's, I don't know what the problem was. But because of that, I just picked colors from Stash. So the tail I did in these colors, and so this darkest one is Brennan Needle Old Hag. I did use Freedom, which is one of the called for colors, and then all the fill-in for the tail is this cool Brennan Needle that has a lot of variegation. It's called the Devil's Footprint, and I felt like it gave like a nice like multicolored scale look to her tail. And then for the hair, one of the called for colors was Blueberry, and so I used that in the hair. I did the outline in Old Hag that I used for the tail as well. And then, so I used Blueberry, and then I used a Brennan Needle Mermaid Purses, which is, it has this really deep purple in it. I'll post pictures on my Instagram. Hopefully the colors will show up better. But it does, you know, it still looks different from the model. But I feel like, but I was trying to use, is that better? I was trying to use what I had, and I think it gives, it's closer to the like overall dark, mysterious underwater feel of the model that I really liked, that drew me to the model. It's not as bright. I tried to start using the called for, and I was just like confused. But you can see like here, that's all one floss, and so that's the Devil's Footprints. But I think it gives a nice effect. So that was my last whip. This week I hope to finish the full crosses, and all I have left is the rest of the fill-in in her hair. And honestly, I think looking at it, that's going to be 3 or 4 strands. So I am going to work on that today and hopefully finish that today. And then there's one more week in June, one more full week in June, and I hope to do some beading. There's more setup for beading, so I don't know if I'll do a lot of that during the week, but we will see. I really would like to finish it, but if I don't finish it in June, I'm not going to be heartbroken. Like the beading and the backstage, I won't be heartbroken, because I want to finish this year so that I have a spot open for a birthday start next year, hopefully. And also it would just be really nice to have this finished. And when I do finish it, I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a frame for it yet. I usually let the thrift gods decide when frames come to me for certain pieces. Sometimes I get them years before the project's done. Sometimes the project's waiting for years to find its frame. But this one, I'm going to be honest, I think I really want to get it framed quickly. And so I might actually order a custom frame when it's done. So we will see. It is a special one and I think it would be worth it. So this last week, actually, the last weekend, I really wasn't feeling like stitching. The weekends are usually when I stitch the most, but I have a desk job, and sometimes if I'm doing a lot, my wrist can get sore, and I had a sore wrist. And sometimes I try to push through it, but then I have to remind myself, like, if you are stitching with a sore wrist, you're going to make it worse, and then it'll be a longer period of time before you can stitch. So I told myself, I didn't stitch last weekend. But I wanted to engage with my stitching. And so I finished some things that had been sitting in my finishes box that hadn't been fully finished. So I'm going to show you those now. The first one, I made this little coffin shaped pillow. It has this batik on the back, which reminds me of sort of like a, mystical but rotten leaf forest floor. And I really like this one. It says mushroom food. I like remembering my own mortality, and I love mushrooms. And I love thinking about how freaky and vast and incredible mushrooms are. So I really liked this one. This is a Noctiflora design. I'm not sure. I think it's on their Etsy. I'm not sure. It was originally it was in one of those like charity bundles that you donate to a charity. You send them your receipt, and then they send you like a bundle where a bunch of designers have done things. And it was for an Earth Day one a couple years ago. I finished this last year, like stitching it. And I had actually like sewn it, like cut and sewn it also last year, but I needed to stuff it and then sew up the bottom. And then I put this safety pin here because I think I'm gonna hang it. And then I'm really excited that I finished this. Oh, I finished stitching it last October. I started it probably around 2023, I think, or maybe 22. This was the designer's called Beast or God. He has a Patreon and an Instagram, and I used to be a patron. And when I got this pattern. I think it's probably still available, like if you become a patron, because I don't think they have a Etsy store. They didn't when I became a patron. That was the case. And so I joined on the tier where you could get the backlog because I really wanted to do this pattern. This is a pattern that is inspired by Over the Garden Wall, the cartoon miniseries that I am obsessed with, and I watch it every fall. I stitched this on a 32 count. It's a picture of this, plus I think it's cyprium. I don't know how to say it. And with 2 threads. I really like how it turned out. And when I finish things in hoops, this is what I do because I'm lazy. I put a nice fabric, wrong sides together, and then I put it in the hoop, and then I do this around with both at the same time. And then I think it looks pretty nice. And I don't have to like stitch like a felt or something around the back. That was great. I wanted to finish, I planned on fully finishing that second one last fall, so it was overdue. So, you know, it's not a bad thing when I can't stitch. I might actually get some things done. So for plans for the rest of the month, as I said, I'm going to keep working on my focus piece. For July, I have a few plans already. So Envis at Sleepy Goblin Crafts had and a couple videos ago shown a collection of vintage magazines that they got at the thrift store. And one of them they had, and I had bought it 5 years ago. I ordered it like 5 years ago off eBay. And they had pointed out one of the patterns, and that pattern was the reason I bought the magazine. I don't know why I didn't go get it, but I've gone in now. It's this pattern. Focus. It has these adorable little goblins, and it says the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. And I had seen it on someone's blog in 2020, and it was like an old blog post. And she had mentioned, like, the person who had stitched it said something about, like, I started this when I was pregnant with my oldest, and he's like 23 now or something like that. And so I looked at the date on the post, subtracted 23 years, and figured out it was probably October. So then I searched October that year and then cross stitch, because she didn't put the year, and cross stitch and country crafts, and I found it. So I really wanted to get that pattern, and then I just keep forgetting to start it. So we're gonna do a Halloween in July, Spooky July start together, and I'm really excited about that. So that's one of them. I don't usually do like a 4th of July start, but I have this year, Tusk and Cardinal on their Instagram put out a No Kings pattern, a free No Kings pattern, and it's just like one color, and so I'm gonna just grab something from Stash, and I plan to start that sometime this month. It doesn't have to be the 4th of July, but yeah. And then there's some other smalls I've collected here and there that I've gotten some threads together for, that I might start in July. So the rest of this episode will be birthday stuff, and so collection development will be woven in. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what I did for my birthday this year. So for the last several years, on my birthday or the week of my birthday, I've taken off a day of work and gone to the nearest LNS to me, which is, it's not in my city, it's just under 2 hours away. And I like to take a day off because, you know, it takes 2 hours there, 2 hours back, and I like to spend several hours there. So it's pretty much a full day. And it's just really nice, you know, to take that day, not have to worry about work, not have to worry about errands or anything, and just, this is what I'm doing today. This is for me. And so the shop is in Johnson City, Tennessee. It's called Cross Stitch and Crafts. And I went there. Whenever I go, I usually have in mind, I bring with me a couple patterns I already have that I would like to kit up, because a lot of times I would prefer to look at the flosses in person before I purchase them. And so especially if I'm kitting something up that's all over dyes, I really like to go. And then this time too, I'll show you in a minute, but I had a project that was called for in all MPI silks, and I knew I couldn't afford to kit it all in silks, but some of them were I really liked the tone of the color, and I knew that there wasn't an exact equivalent in DMC, so I wanted to see which ones I actually wanted to buy. And it was a little too difficult looking, you know, online. I wanted to do that in person and really lay them out and make sure they all matched tonally and everything. So I drove down there that morning. I got there, they opened like around 10. I got there around 11 or so. And I was looking around. It was also quite busy when I got there, which was wonderful. We love to see a busy LNS, right? There were some lessons going on, there were some people stitching, and so I was just, you know, wandering around. I have met the owner and the another employee who runs the shop, Amy, and Amy is always super, super helpful. She was very busy helping other people, but she was like, you know your way around, right? Like, you're good. And I was like, absolutely, I know exactly what I'm doing. And I was just, you know, pulling threads and doing whatnot. And, you know, I'm in the middle of, you know, looking, I like to look at their little sale rack, because, you know, an LNS that's been open a long time, they've been open like 20 years or something, they always have some cool treasures, and sometimes they're on the sale rack or whatever, because they've been there a long time. And so I looked through there. That's usually the first place I go before I start kitting up the stuff that I have planned to kit up. And you know, I also like to, I'm browsing. Like, I'm not just there to kit things up. I'm also browsing. And I always bring something to stitch on just in case I want to sit. They have a table for stitching. Sometimes I end up shopping so long that it's time to go home. But this time it was really busy, and I could hear, you know, there were some lessons going on. I think they were doing like a punch needle lesson. There was a little bit of needlepoint discussion, so that was cool. You know, I was doing my thing, and then I heard some people go, Annie. And I was like, no way, because I'd heard about this shop from the Proper Stitcher here on Flosstube and Instagram, Annie. She lives in the same city as me. No, I had never met her before, but she does live in the same city. And so when she talked about her LNS, I said, what? You know, this was several years ago when she started her channel. But that's how I found out about the shop. And she was there. She designs as well, and her company's also the Proper Stitcher. And she was dropping off some patterns for Sandra, the owner. And, you know, I was like, okay, I don't want to bother her, but if I don't say hi, like, I'm gonna be kicking myself. So I just very meekly, I was like, hi, Annie. I'm not very charismatic when I don't know people, but she was so kind, so sweet. And she was in the shop for a couple hours, and then I ended up stitching with some of the other ladies there, and realized that the designer of the Nebby needle was also there, Bonnie. And so I got to meet her, and she was so kind as well. I really enjoyed just listening to everybody chat while I was stitching. I worked on my Blackbird Fractor, my focus piece. I got a lot of that fence in because that's easy, simple, repetitive. I didn't really have to look at a chart, so that's nice. And it was truly such a lovely day. I was able to grab everything that I had wanted to kit up. And then do some stitching and chat with stitchers, which I was stitching, and I realized I've never stitched in front of other stitchers before, which is true. I've never stitched in person around other stitchers. As I mentioned in my first video, one of the reasons I'm making these videos is that I would love to make stitching friends, and that's kind of one of the things. I've been stitching for years. I stitch every week, and I've never had like a stitchy day with friends. So that was really lovely. But also you start to get self-conscious. You're like, what if I do something weird? What if they think the way I stitch is strange, or the way that I like measure my threads or something? Whatever. I mean, nobody cared, but it was interesting because everything, I'm all self-taught. Nobody's ever taught me, and you know, I didn't have like a family member teach me or anything. I mostly I started with kits. I just kind of figured it out, and then I developed my own habits, and then I watched one video on how to stitch in hand several years ago, and then started trying that, and then figured out my own preference for stitching in hand, because there's different ways to like hold your needle, hold your fabric, different directions to stitch in. There's definitely like variations of ways to stitch in hand, and I developed my favorite, so that's what I do most of the time. But especially if it's like linen with one strand, I'm definitely going to stitch that in hand. So but it was just really lovely, a really lovely day. And towards the end of, like, when I had kind of, you know, I was packing up a little bit, some people were leaving, another woman came in who is very active in the Embroiderers Guild of America. Apparently 3 different chapters she's very involved in, but definitely the one local to Johnson City. And she really enjoys hardanger. And so she was showing me her project, and she's teaching some younger stitchers how to do hardanger. And she has been, it sounded like for several years, they've been doing classes and working their way up to more complicated projects. And so that was really amazing. And she encouraged me to join the local chapter in my city. And so I'm definitely going to look into that. I've looked into it before and thought about it, and then, I don't know, got cold feet. But she was very encouraging. That might be something on the horizon. This is kind of buried in this ramble, but I've also been thinking about starting a Zoom some kind of regular Zoom. So if you're still here, then that probably means you don't mind listening to me ramble, which probably means that you would be okay hanging out in a Zoom. So if you would be interested, then let me know. Let me know in the comments. If I think there's interest, then I'd be happy to. I don't have like a professional Zoom account, but I'd be happy to get a subscription so that I could host something like that. So let's get on to collection development. I'll show you what I got while I was there. Okay, so first, this was the last thing I grabbed, but when I was checking out, they have like a table with just various like items. And I don't know who made these, but they're little plush stuffed hearts made out of vintage quilts that I think someone probably found secondhand. I really liked this one, and I mean, you could put it in a dough bowl. That would be very cute. I don't have one. I don't have a space for one. So I might use it as a pin cushion or something, or just put it on a bookshelf. I just thought it was really cute in pastel. I picked this one out because I really liked the fabrics that were in it. And then I got several patterns. This one is a scattered seed samplers. What's it called? Oh, Sweetness of Spring pin keep. And I just really loved the position of this bird, like the way this line goes. I just thought it was very aesthetically pleasing. I would probably finish this in a hoop. It's a cute round design. I love that. And it's charted in DMC, which I love, because I don't have to worry as much about dye lot issues. Because I really like, when you really like a pattern, you're like, I hope I can make it look like that. and I feel pretty confident I can make it look pretty close to that. I also got a Kathy Barrick. This is Miss Elizabeth Perkins. I love some solid stitching. And what I mean by that is not like fill-in stitching, because there's counting in this stitching, but like where there's not gaps between, like skipped threads. I find it very enjoyable to do in hand when you're kind of working next to a X you just did. So I'm really excited about that. I love her creepy black eyes so much. My partner was freaked out by them. I think she's beautiful. The rest of the next set is things from that sales section. And so they're kind of miscellaneous. But I got this, it's a copyright 2005, Little Leaf Designs. It's the green door, and it has this kitty cat on it, and it comes with the kitty cat bee or charm, and the green, I think it looks like a green silk for the door. And there's specialty stitches. There's at least satin stitch. There's a lot of oh yeah, and there's some eyelets. There's satin stitch and some eyelets. So that would be just I think that would be a fun, break from full crosses. And I love the cat, obviously. So the next one, this one is the Stitching Parlor Triton sewing chest, but I honestly would probably do this, not make it into a sewing chest. But I love this merman kind of guy. I love sea creatures. I don't know, humanoid sea creatures. And I also really like doing nautical things because my partner is from Cape Cod, and he just really enjoys seeing nautical stuff while he's in this landlocked state. The next I got is a Kathy Barrick, Pretty as a Peacock, and I've had this one on my wish list, so I was excited to find it discounted. I just love how frickin' weird that bird is. And I like these colors too. It's in needlepoint silks, but there's only 5 of them, so I'll probably pull some DMC that I think are equivalent. The last sale pattern I got is a La-Di-Da, and it's just a little alphabet, like a little alphabet small, but the little motifs behind the alphabet and even the font reminded me of like the interior decor of Panera in 2003, if that's a reference that makes sense to you. It looks the way Norah Jones' first album makes me feel, if that also makes sense. Yeah, I really liked it. And then they have a little like freebie basket. People can bring in stuff that they're destashing or whatever that they don't want. So I picked up 2 old magazines. I got this Leisure Arts magazine with this little bun. And he is just so cute. I think Steph from Lindy Stitches stitched this. If not, she stitched a similar bunny recently. But I love that bunny. And then I got this magazine for this angel right here. I think I like her hair. Like her, I don't know, fluffy red hair. So that was all the patterns I got. I also got some fabrics. So I got this is like a fat eighth of Fiber on a Whim's Moonstone. I showed a project a couple months ago that I'd started on this. I really like it. It's a greenish neutral and I really like that color. It's pretty unique. I was really glad that they had more. I also got these were like the final offcuts they had of Fiber on a Whim Cafe au lait. And so it's like a couple ornament cuts and then I could do like a medium to small on this. Yeah, so I just kind of grabbed those. They were connected, but I had her cut them apart so that, and because she will serge them for you. Oh, and at this shop, they have like the whole yard or couple yards or whatever in one piece, and you can request them to cut the size you want, and they will charge you by the square inch. So I like getting some fabrics when I'm there and just miscellaneous cuts. So the thing so I already owned this pattern, but I definitely knew I wanted to kit it up when I went on my trip. So so this is Kathy Barrick's Riley Harbor. And I really like some of these colors, so I knew I wanted to end this like that kind of rose brown in some of the houses, but I felt like I could convert some of the others to the DMC. So I just kind of laid them all out. I pulled the MPIs I was pretty sure I wanted and laid them out and then picked some DMC. So up front, these are the MPIs I got because I really liked the tone of those. And then the rest I did in DMC. When I pulled the DMC ones, I did also convert those to just some other similar DMC that I liked. So I also took 2 other projects to get some floss for. The first one is I just grabbed the overdye for this primitive hair. It's called Melissa, and she's just like a bee lady. I really like her. And I grabbed like the color for her fill-in. And lastly, I grabbed colors for these designs from Little Robin Designs. There's this sort of dragon thing. Griffin. And then this big weird cat. So I just, again, pulled the DMC, but then fiddled with the colors because I didn't like some of them. And then I pulled a overdyed for the red that is not the one that's called for, but I liked it better. I felt like it looked more like the model. Yeah, some of the DMCs looked nothing like the model because it's called for an overdyes, and I converted most of them except the red, which I also converted to a different overdye. But I think I'm gonna stitch these like, well, hold on. Okay. They're not the same dimensions, but I think I might stitch them. Wait. I think that I might stitch them one over another. They're pretty close. So I could put one on top and one on the bottom and then create like a little bit of a border around each one and then kind of frame them together like that. They are part of a larger sampler that Little Robin Designs, I'm pretty sure, did come out with the full sampler, but I think they were aware that some people just would be interested in these creatures. And they were so absolutely correct about that. So I bought this one immediately. And because I think it's so funny that these are on the same sampler. Like, they're just so odd. And so I want to put them together. That was all that I got from Cross Stitch and Crafts. I do have a couple other patterns that I've acquired in the last 3 weeks. So these two were from an Etsy shop. And I had just had, so I had this one on my wish list for a really long time. It's called it's The Master and the Macabre. It's an Edgar Allan Poe themed sort of sampler. There's references to a lot of his famous short stories in here. And then of course his sad little face in the moon. And I just really like it. I've been wanting it. So I went ahead and got that one. And then while I was at it, I got this one. This is Kittie. And I really like her. Again, I like this kind of solid stitching, and I really like her little frog. And the last thing I got, when Envis was showing their like vintage patterns that they had, they showed this pattern, and I really loved it. I was like, oh, that's amazing. But I wasn't looking for it. But I came across it on eBay. Sometimes people will sell, like, they'll cut patterns out of a magazine and just sell those patterns out of a vintage magazine instead of the whole magazine. And somebody was selling this for a few dollars. And so I just grabbed it. Envis said they'd probably just do the full moon, and I might do the same. I'm not sure, but I really like this pattern. All right, these next few items are not cross stitch related. They are dolls. They're birthday related. So these are Monster High dolls. They recently came out with a collection that is themed around Draculaura's 1600th birthday, because she is a vampire. And I have received 2 of them. I have one of them that's being shipped, and I think I'm probably going to order the 4th. There were Cupid, Draculaura, Frankie, and Cleo came out in this collection. And this Draculaura doll is perhaps, I think probably, my favorite doll I have ever gotten from G3. It's her birthday and it's my birthday. Her birthday is actually Valentine's Day, but they came out with this in June for some reason. So this time I'm gonna pretend like we're both Gemini. So I've clearly already unboxed and styled this one. I love her collar. This collection, they all have cage dresses, and they're dressed in like formal wear for her birthday. I love her gloves. Adore her gloves. And I love her little headpiece that goes over her pigtail. So I restyled her hair a little bit. And then gave her her accessories. She came with the fan and the purse and the earrings. Next is, oh, and that's a rainbow high, shadow high stand that she's on, because G3 does not come with stands, unfortunately. This one is Cupid, and she is on this floating stand that is a G1 Spectra stand that I have to very precariously prop her on, but I wanted her to be floating. This is the first G3 Cupid doll. I am going to restyle her hair, but I haven't gone around to it. So she's attending Draculaura's birthday in this getup. They all have cage skirts in this collection, but Cupid's is the only one that has an overskirt over the cage. And her skirt was like, it wasn't sitting very well. That's one thing about doll-sized clothing, is that they they're not heavy like real clothes. And so sometimes they don't like fall correctly. And so I took a needle and thread and I sewed down these corners to the cage, and I sewed it down in the back so that I can sort of position it to be situated correctly. So I don't usually order every doll from a collection. I'm a collector, but I'm not a completionist. I follow my favorites. But there's five dolls in that collection. Claudine comes in a playset. But I think I'm going to order all four of the individual dolls. I have two. I've ordered the third, and I think I'm going to go ahead and order Frankie as well. Because I think this is truly my favorite collection that they've come out with in G3. But next, I want to show you one more doll, and this is a very special doll. It is a G3 Monster High doll, but it is Welcome Committee Frankie, and it is a very timely Pride Month release. So this doll was supposed to come out last spring with it's a part of the Fear Book collection where they're in various after school clubs. It was supposed to come out with the original release of that collection, and it was supposed to be a Target exclusive. But everyone's pre-orders got canceled, and no one had heard anything about it because Target refused to carry this doll because the Welcome Committee is kind of clearly from the design a GSA or Gay Straight Alliance, sort of a safe place for queer students group, social club. And Frankie is G3 Frankie is canonically non-binary. So, and you know, if you know about what Target's been up to, they canceled this doll. But Mattel went through with creating them, and I'm really glad that they did. But this doll is now an Amazon exclusive. We still were not sure if this doll was going to come out. There was a sort of a second pre-order put up, and then those got canceled as well, and everybody got discouraged. But then people started receiving this doll as PR, and so we got hopeful, and then a few weeks ago they finally did drop. So this is my Welcome Committee Frankie. I love them. This is actually also my favorite Frankie in G3, I think. It's also my first Frankie in G3 because I think it's weird that they're blue instead of green. I want them to be green, but that's okay. But this one's my favorite because I feel like Frankie's always been kind of punk. And their core doll in G1 was like this plaid punk dress, and I felt like, you know, updating the doll, recreating the personality of the doll for G3 really needed to lean into sort of like the Avril Lavigne aesthetic of gender non-specific punk clothing. And I think that this is the first doll, except there's like a beach one where they have a bucket hat and board shorts on, which is kind of cute. But I think this one just really encapsulates that like 2000s pop punk, like gender non-conforming aesthetic. I love it. I love the plaid pants. I love the tie. I love the arm warmers. I don't love the colors in the shoes, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I just wish they were like different colors. But I like that they're like rainbow. I love the graffiti on their prosthetic leg. Love, 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 love. This doll also came with, like, when it finally came out, it came with more accessories than the other Fear Book dolls I have. So that was cool. This is Frankie's little dog, who has a little pride bandana on. Their lightning bolt backpack is pride themed. Comes with a little camera bag, little monster camera bag. They also come with this jacket. It has some pride pins on it, which I might end up putting this on like a different Frankie because I like their arm warmers. And then it comes with all these snacks. It also comes with these snacks that are themed after the main three. So this is Draculara's, the first one was Frankie's, and this one is Claudine's. And little sodas as well because it's a social club. So they're having snacks. So on Frankie's little board, their little, to-do list to lead the club, it says, Monster High welcome meeting, to-do list, new member intro, and snack break. So I'm really glad that they got released. I'm really glad to have them. Their boots. I do like this about their boots. They say, be yourself, be unique. And the other cool thing about this is that this box, I really feel like they added some stuff because as a bit of a consolation. Because the Fearbook dolls don't usually come with this much stuff. They're kind of just core line dolls. But we got a Monster High themed Pride sticker, which I'm very excited. I'll probably put it on one of my floss boxes. A mini poster for the welcome committee that says, be yourself, be unique, be a monster. And many of these characters here, most of them, are canonically queer, or fan and queer. And then there's also a full-size poster. It has this like, don't stick your head in a plastic bag warning, but I'm really excited about this. I'm gonna get a frame for this and put it near my doll shelf. So there's a lot of doll stuff, but I hope that if you're the kind of person that wanted to see it, you enjoyed it. So that's really it for me this time. I think that I will start the Riley Harbor design that I got the silks for at Cross Stitch and Crafts this month. And then I'll definitely do my Sal with Envis and start the No Kings design. So those are my plans. I'll see you next time. Thank you.